chapter 2, verses 1 to 10. Sanjaya uvacha tam tatha kripayavishtam ashupurna pulekshanam vishikantamidam vakyam uvacha madhusudanaha Shri Bhagavanuvacha Utatpakashnalamidam Vishame samupastitam Anadyajushtamasvadyam Akirtikaram Arjuna Klaityam masmagamah partha Naitattvayupapadyate Shudram hridaya daurbalyam Yakvotishta parantapa Arjuna uvacha Katham bhishmamaham sankhe Dronam cha madhusudana Nishubhi pratiyochyami Ujatha varisudana Guruna hatvahi mahanubhavan Shreyo bhoktum bhaikshyamapi haloke Hatvatakamasru guru dihaiva Kunjiya bhogan rudhira pradibhan Nakhaitat vismat kataranno gariyaha Yadvajayema yadivano jayeyuhu Yane vahatvana jijivishamaha Devastita pramukhe dhartarashtraha Karpanya doshopahatat svabhavaha Pritchavishvam dharma sammudacetaha Yashreyasyarischitam bruhitanne Shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam Nahi prapashyami mamapanudhyat Yacchokamuccoshanamindriyanam Avapya bhumavatapatnagradham Rajyam suranam api chadhipatyam Sanjaya uvacha Eva bhuktva rishikesham Purakesha parantapa Nayosya hidi govindam Ukva tushnim babhuvaha Samuvacha rishikeshaha Rahasanniva bharata Senayorubhayor madhye Vishidantamidam vachaha
Krishna said, why you got dejected in a crisis? Because all the training, all the education, the entire preparation of life is to face a situation like this. If you cannot face a situation like this, having got this training, why you got dejected? And the entire theme of the Gita, he leads the discussion. How can you get dejected in a crisis? First of all, how can you get dejected? Second is how that too in a crisis. As I said before, a situation that you cannot handle, that you will not know how to handle, turns into a crisis. Again I repeat, a situation that you do not know how to handle turns into a crisis. It is a situation. The formula is this. Life offers situation. Life gives only situations. It doesn't give problems. The ability to handle or the inability to handle turns it into a problem or otherwise. It doesn't offer problems. It only gives situations. Just as the oft-quoted example. Summer is not a problem. Summer is a situation. Winter is a situation. It's not a problem. The inability to handle that situation turns it into a problem. Number one. The inability to handle any situation arises when you personalize that situation. Again, how that situation turns into a crisis is, there is a situation, here is a situation, and if you personalize that situation, it turns into a crisis. I have to attend to sickness is different from saying I have to attend to my body's sickness. Sickness you have to, if the body is diseased, you have to attend to. How do you attend another body disease versus your body disease? Someone else is diseased. How do you attend to that? When you are diseased, how do you attend to that? So the situation is the same. What is the situation? Body getting diseased is a situation. It turns into a crisis when you personalize it. And it is that personalization that is turning the situation into a crisis. So, anyone having terminal disease, you will sympathize, but you will not have sleepless nights. Someone known to you having that personalization, you will suffer. Therefore, situation is the same. Personalization converts it into a crisis. Are you able to follow? Then comes the third. Either in relation to all others, there is that indifference that is protecting. It's not knowledge. It is just that indifference that keeps you okay. In the areas of personalization, you get affected. When someone is diseased, you will say, "Oh my God, take care." It's not that you are objectively handling it. It is just the basic indifference kinds of protects you. Same thing happens to the mind thing. There is that extreme. There is this extreme worry and anxiety. Therefore, again I repeat, the three steps. Life creates situations. That's all. It doesn't create. Life says, no individual is so big that I have to sit and create a problem for you. Your ego might make you to believe that you are so great and everyone is ganged up against you to trouble. And life says you don't even exist you don't even recognize your existence. See, the totality doesn't recognize your existence even. In that Panchatantra, that story, in the evening, the fly told the elephant that you have been carrying me the whole day. If you are tired, let me know. I will fly away. Elephant said, now that you spoke, I realized that you were sitting on me the whole day. Otherwise, I didn't even realize. See, that is the presence of the individual to the totality. But the personalization makes you to believe that the whole world is ganged up against you. Life has ganged up against you. It doesn't do that. It says it only gives situations. It only offers situations, and personalization turns it into a crisis. When it is not turning into a crisis, it's not that you have understood or anything. It is just plain Just plain indifference, that's all. Just plain indifference. In the sense, you are rushing for an appointment, there is a funeral, and they block the entire traffic. What will you say? Why that fellow has to die only today? That too when I am having an important appointment. When you look at that body, if only you can visualize, it can be reversed any time. Maybe I will be like that and that man might be sitting. How do you see the whole situation? But how we see it, this is what is known as, this is indifference. This kind of personality will go through crisis after crisis after crisis, howsoever knowledgeable that individual is. That's the starting point of the Bhagavad Gita. This individual, howsoever wise he appears to be, howsoever knowledgeable he seems to be, will go through crisis after crisis after crisis, because he is oscillating between the two. Either personalizing the situations or turning indifferent. Either way, he is not handling it. Either way, he doesn't know how to handle the situation. Here is this knowledge that he is going to give, supposed to help you to understand life, because handling comes only through understanding. If you have to handle anything, you should have an understanding. It's the understanding that helps you to handle. Tragedy is if you understand something partially. This is another problem. If you understand anything partially, that partial knowledge, you will complicate it more. That partial understanding, what happens? The partial understanding always dangerous, because it complicates it further. Therefore, for you to handle, you need understanding, a complete understanding, not partial. Complete understanding, 700 verses maybe he needs. Even if you do 2-3 cycles, nothing will, the partial understanding will continue. Therefore, why did you create? Why are you dejected in a crisis, Arjuna? What happened to all your lifetime training? What happened to all your wisdom that you are not able to handle this situation? Why you are not able to handle it? Because you have personalized it. You have personalized it. Understand it like that. A situation that you do not personalize, you know how to handle. As someone has a problem, you give an advice, and you want the other person to listen. You hope the other person will listen. You want the other person to listen. Look at the irony. You go through the same situation, you give the advice to yourself, something in you doesn't listen to you. You give the same advice to your own self, something inside of you is not listening to you, and you will want the whole world to listen to your advice. When your own advice you are not able to, why? You don't have a complete understanding. You are not convinced about what? You are not convinced about what you say. Look at the intensity. A person says, I am suffering. Immediately he will say, but life is like that, no? 2 statements the person makes. If life is like that means the first statement will not come at all. And when they speak, when they utter these 2 statements, look at the intensity in the first, intensity in the second. This is called partial understanding. the intensity with which they talk about the suffering part will be more. Very shallow is the part when they say, but it is. That's all like that only. We have to accept. We have to adjust. We have to live with it. The way they say that we have to live with it becomes very shallow. So in you there is the partial understanding. What is the partial understanding? There is a crisis, there is a suffering, and you are so helpless about it, and you do not want to experience it. A crisis is a situation that you do not want to experience, and you are so, one part of you says, I don't want to experience it, desperately I want to get out of it. On the other side of it, you are so helpless also. Knowledge removes the helplessness, tells you how to understand the situation. Don't say knowledge teaches you how to handle it. Say knowledge helps you how to understand. Handling, take responsibility. You have to handle it in the way that you have to handle it. But knowledge does one thing. What? It gives you the correct understanding. Yes. Different levels of evolution. Yes.
And there is one who is at 30% everything.
Yes.
But still, if a person who is slightly higher, are they still communicating the wrong knowledge or whatever the person at 30%?
Yes. A person at 70% level, if he is giving an advice to that one who is at 30% level, he is still giving the wrong advice. I'll explain how it, having made the statement, I will say how it works also. He is still giving the wrong advice only. Till that state of wisdom is. What is the struggle? What is it that is keeping a person at 70% or 60% or 30%? Something is still keeping that person not evolving, not growing. What is that entity called? That entity is called ignorance. That entity is called ignorance. When we say he has evolved 70%, what is that 70% evolution means? Still ignorance is there. Accept the situation. What is 70% evolution? Or 30% evolution? Or 99.9% evolution? What is that? Ego still exists. The ego is still there existing. Ego is somehow keeping the wisdom part of it right. That's why that man is not yet completely evolved. As long as the bit of ego is there, whatever advice comes out of that person, there will be the taint of ego in it. For the 30% person, the advice from the 70% fellow might help him, might help the 30% fellow. But to whom it doesn't help? It won't help the 70% fellow. Because the ego gets the ego gets stronger. How does it become stronger here? It falsely arrogates what? It falsely arrogates the I am helping. It falsely arrogates I am helping. Therefore, from the beginning they say, whatever help happens, you are an instrument through which the divine does the help. Again I repeat, just to negate this part, from the beginning one thing is said, what? You are an instrument at the hands of the divine, so all help comes only from the divine and you are only an instrument. If any advice or help is done, that I am only an instrument. To that extent, whoever is helping, he is okay. Follow what I am not talking about the 30% guy, I am talking about the 70% guy. Otherwise, the ego starts arrogating the help. The moment ego starts arrogating the help, it starts playing the role of God. It starts playing the role of God. That I am helping. I will take care. Like Ramakrishna Paramahamsa says, God laughs at you, or God laughs at the doctor when doctor says, I will take care. Because you are not taking care. You are an instrument through which the divine takes care. That is the way in which the 70% guy can protect himself. If not, he is also a part of the same. He is also part of the same ego. Number one. Number two, these numbers of evolution make us to believe that 70, 80, 90, 100 is, from 70 to 80 must be that much easier. 80 to 90 will be that much easier. In fact, it becomes that much tough. It becomes that much difficult, because that's the classic advice, Isavasi Upanishad, blinding darkness. As you evolve, the intensity of ego becomes, the struggle of the ego is also that much stronger, because from the bad ego it is turning into a good ego. Nevertheless, it's the leg. The ego is standing on the head and now it is standing on the leg. But nevertheless it doesn't go. Therefore, two ways of understanding it. One way is to say, I am an instrument through which the divine functions. One way is that. Another way of handling the same situation is, till I reach enlightenment, all my knowing is only partial. There is no complete understanding. A predominantly intellectual person will approach it like that. A predominantly emotional person will approach it like I said first. He will say, I am an instrument. I don't arrogate anything to myself. Another way of looking at it is, another way of looking at the same situation is, till I reach the state of enlightenment, all knowing is only partial. There is no such thing as fact at all. In the book Clearer Thinking, he says, adana clearer thinking then. There he says, there is no such thing as fact at all in life. It's only opinions. It's only opinions. And it keeps changing. Therefore, at any point of time, I can never claim to say, I know, I have understood. Therefore, you keep that element of, I don't know always. Because till you reach 100%, all knowledges are only partial. Like, even they say scientific fact, no? Just because we are, everyone is using that word, we also actually believe there is something called scientific fact. Actually, it is scientific opinion only. Because every 10 years, if they keep changing, what will you call that as? What would you call that as? So, in every aspect of it, life is only, there is no such thing as facts at all. You have only opinions and you have to live only with opinions. Therefore, opinions means you can never be sure about it. Opinions means you can never be sure about it. This brings a humility. This brings a humility. Why I said these two ways is because for the 70% guy to help the 30% guy, help always has to be done with humility. I help another with humility. Very difficult is to help another with humility, because the very help itself, the very fact that you are helping itself puts you on a slightly higher pedestal. How can you practice humility there? And yet it has to be done. You follow? One way of understanding it as, till enlightenment, all knowledges are partial, incomplete. It's opinion. Opinion means bound to change. It means whatsoever you call as a fact now, probabilities of you being completely wrong is there. I will not be so. I will not be so certain about it. I will not be so arrogant about what I say. I will not be so certain about what I say. That much of freedom is given. That much of elbow room is there for one to grow, to evolve. That is one way of understanding. The other way of understanding is, I am a tool. I am an instrument in the hands of the divine. At my level, I do not know what is right, what is wrong for me. How can I know what is right, what is wrong for another? And yet, if some help is happening through me to another, it's not my making, it is making of the divine. Actually, they don't say divine. They say it's all the help of it's all the work of the master. It's all the work of the guru. Actually, they don't say even divine. It's all the work of the guru. Because it's the teacher that is doing it. Not me. Not one side, in that sense. Vivekananda, one of the lectures, fantastic discourse he gives. In that he says, anything noble, holy comes out of this mouth, know that my master is speaking, not me. Know that it's my master speaking, not me. If anything negative criticism comes out of this mouth, understand, Vivekananda is speaking, not my master. See, this distinction saved him right till the end. And he was doing fabulous work. He was doing extraordinary work. And then what saved him right till the end? That understanding. This understanding brings about humility automatically. These two understandings collectively put together brings about a humility. Are you able to follow? So two things. One is instrument. The day you can take the stance that you are an instrument, you are free. You are free of the... You are free. Free of what? Free of the consequences of acts. From the aspect of karma, relatively ignorant person will not give advice to a person I said from the level of emotion, bhakti, from the level of jnanam, intellect. Now I am saying the same thing from the level of action, karma. A person who understands that he has not yet attained enlightenment will never venture into helping another, because he has a very firm understanding what? Since he is the one who is guiding, the consequences is whose consequences it is. Supposing if I tell you do it and you go on and do it, the consequences, there is a consequence for you and there is a consequence for me. Between the two, the consequence for me is much higher than the consequence for you, because I am the one who is driving you into. That's why the wise one says, take responsibility and you do it by understand you are responsible for the action, not me. I am only giving my opinion. He moves away. This is from the angle of karma. From the angle of active person, how he approaches the situation, I said. From the angle of how a devotional person will approach it, I said. How a person of knowledge will approach it. Vedanta says, combine all the three and practice all the three. Somewhere you will be protected. Somewhere you will be protected. Because action has you tell a person to do something. Actually, who's doing it? Even though that person is executing the action, who's the actual doer? And we freely give advice, not knowing what we are getting into. That's why the wise one doesn't. Because when I give you an advice, imagine that you come to me with a problem and I give you an advice. You sincerely follow it. That's where if anyone wants to sincerely follow, at least I will be very scared to give anything. If I see any element of sincerity, I will not answer that person's phone call only. Because it's so scary. Why it's so scary? Because you are the one who is guiding the other. When I guide the other, I have no clue to that person's capacity, ability. I have no clue to any understanding of what action is. But then I simply give one advice and the person follows it. Something goes wrong. Nothing will go right in that advice because it is given by. Since it is from the ego, it will not be right. It is bound to be wrong, and the consequences comes to whom? Guru. Correct. The consequence comes to the Guru. True. That's why wise Guru always keeps quiet. He will not give advice. He will say, this is a fact, take it or leave it. Three ways. From how you understand the same situation, from an active angle, from an emotional angle, from an angle of the intellect. Combine and practice all the three. Combine and practice all the three. Before helping another, tell yourself that I will take responsibility for the consequences. See, you have the courage to advise. You cannot. After that you cannot. At least I tell myself. Before I say I am going to take, no words will come out. I'll get. So, it's not that I am imagining. It is a fact. Because I am the one who's striving it. That is at the level of action. At the level of emotion, I understand what I am only the divine that is helping. All help, all noble comes through the divine. I am only an instrument. Slightly different is from the angle of the intellect. From the angle of the intellect, you understand that till you reach enlightenment, all knowledges are partial. All knowledges are only partial, because there is no such thing called fact. It's only opinions. Maybe collective opinion. Doesn't matter whether it is individual or collective, it is opinion. That's it. Is it okay? The man understood about action will be very careful about action, because it's not the action, it is the consequences of the action. It is the consequences that is going to bounce back upon me, number one. Second is devotion, bhakti. And wonderful is that. Just to become an instrument. Just to become an instrument. When you become an instrument, negatives Allah divine, but positive is my ego. Divine means all credit goes to the divine. That is the bhakti way. That's the bhakti way of looking at the same situation. Another way of looking at the same situation at the level of the intellect is all knowledges are partial. Therefore, anything that comes out of partial knowledge is bound to be wrong. The moment you understand that all the knowledge that you have is partial, till you reach the state of enlightenment, what will you do? You will be ready for taking guidance right till the end. Because you understand that it's always partial. It's always partial. Is it okay? Verse number 4. Oh, Venkat. Kore nimisham. Avanu mudikala. Yes. Two things. One is expose the person to the knowledge, or expose the person to the teacher. That's all. Nothing else can be done. Only two things can be done. Either expose the person to the knowledge, or expose the person to the teacher. Because what can actually help is these two. Therefore, genuinely if I want to help someone, somehow or the other, I need to expose the person to the knowledge. Preferably knowledge. Because the personality types differs. Therefore, the master might not be of inspiration. Because of the different personality types. Therefore, the second I would leave it to some extent. But expose the person to the knowledge. That's the only way that you can. That's the only way that in the path how I can help another, I need to expose the person to the knowledge. Or all efforts I need to do to bring in the person to the knowledge. Because help is going to happen only through understanding. And understanding can happen only through knowledge. Number 2 is expose him to the teacher. Only these two things. There is no other way that a person can help in the path. when I expose the knowledge, I don't give a discourse. When I say expose the other to the knowledge, how would you expose? That's the whole thing. Not by me giving a discourse. How would you expose the other to the knowledge? Or don't they bring him to the class? How would you expose the other to the knowledge? The way in which you live, the way in which you live it, the way in which you live it. You follow? I said, how expose the person to the knowledge. What are the ways in which you can expose the person to the knowledge? One way is bring him to the classes, bring him to the lectures, bring him to... These are, I'm not saying these are all not the ways. The actual way, the ideal way of exposing another to knowledge is by you living it. To whatever extent you can, you stretch and you... When you say whatever extent you can, you stretch. Whatever extent you can stretch, you stretch and live this knowledge. In that living, you can help the other. That's the only way of helping. Otherwise there is no way that one can be helped. Is it okay? Yes, Bharat.
Is knowledge equal to experience?
Is knowledge, yes.
So, the experience, so when you say knowledge, can I take it as an experience that you are trying to provide help?
Yes.
So it is an experience that you are trying to share.
Yes.
You want the other person to look through that experience.
Yes.
So that you get to understand. That's the approach. But it is not dynamic, but time changes.
Yes.
An experience which you went through.
Yes.
When you are trying to share the same experience.
Correct.
You not doing what it was.
Now,
Already changed.
yes, the experience of the divine doesn't change. The experience of self-realization that Ramana had 50 years back versus Vishwamitra had 40,000 years back, that doesn't change. What changes? There are two things. The experience of the divine that was there, let us say supposing someone experienced divine million years ago versus someone experiencing divine now. Will it be two different divine experiences? It can't be two. It has to be the same. The way in which that man will express it is different. The way in which the man today will express it is different. But the experience is one and the same. The way in which the expressions are given will differ. Number one. Number two, the expressions are given, the way in which the divine experience will be spoken about is to inspire that generation. In that sense, what you are saying is correct. It's dynamic. It keeps changing. It keeps moving. Like, thousand years back, if a man has said, life is full of dukkha, sorrow, it might be so appealing then. If that advice is given now, life is full of dukkha, sorrow, it looks like so. It falls very flat, because even in those days, even at the very basic level itself, everything was a struggle. For a meal to be cooked will take hours. For a meal to be cooked will take hours. Today, you can cook a meal and keep it for 3 weeks. Continent to continent food travels. So to say that even at the basic level, life is full of dukkha, false, flat now. Therefore, it has to be explained in a different way now. But the point, the experience of the divine is the same. Are you able to understand the difference what I am saying? One is the experience of the divine is always the same. That doesn't change. And what changes? What changes is the way in which it is expressed. Because that expressions are done to a particular group to inspire them. When the condition of the group changes, that also changes. Mahavira's explanation of non-violence looks very, today it looks very, evening 6 o'clock, sun down, where he stands. He will not move because there is no light. He will not take the next step because in the darkness he doesn't know what he will stamp upon. So he just stands there the whole night. Don't ask me how he slept at all. Maybe standing he slept. Today he looks so. Today, if someone were to give that explanation, it will look so. What? Observe the way in which it is practiced. The concept of non-violence is the same. The concept of non-violence is the same. Do not harm. Do not intend harm. That's all. Do not intend harm. The way in which he expressed it, supposing if same Mahavira were to come alive today, he will not express it like that. He would definitely express it in a completely different way. So in that way the expressions are different, but the experience of the divine is the same. Even relatively there are certain principles that doesn't change. That's why another name for Vedanta is called Sanatana Dharma, eternal dharmas, eternal principles that doesn't change. The way in which it is expressed keeps changing. Is it okay? The way in which it expresses is changing. Otherwise it doesn't change. The experience of the divine doesn't change. Lastly, the enlightened master is not trying to communicate his divine experience. He is trying to tell you, you are also equally capable of experiencing what I have experienced. You are also capable of it. And he is trying to persuade you to, follow the path. Actually, he cannot share that experience. That experience of enlightenment he is not sharing. But what he is actually saying is what? That which I have experienced, you are also capable of. And he is trying to persuade you, guide you in whatever way it is possible to make you experience that. But ultimately it has to be experienced by yourself. That experience cannot be shared. சரியா? Yes. An indulgent person is never really ready for help. An indulgent person is not ready for help. Yes. Yes. Yes.
So how does a wise person try to, or whoever is trying to help them?
That's where the help becomes almost one-sided. Talking in the, like Ramtirtha says, talking in the wilderness. He is talking, but no one is there to. He is talking, but there is no one to listen to. Because a predominantly indulgent person will not be available for transformation. Transformation means to stop indulging. When you say transformation, what do I mean by that is, he will not be available to say that, how do I get out of my indulgent ways of living? He will not ask that question. Even if he comes to higher, he will come and ask for help. How to continue my indulgence. That's where Ramana said, you will come to an enlightened master and you will not know what to ask him. You will come and ask him, how do I continue with my, use all your wisdom and give me a method by which I can continue with my. Therefore, what the wise one does, he goes on making himself available. He goes on making himself available, and he would go to any extent to make himself available. That's all he can do. Beyond that, the indulgent person cannot be helped. The knocks and shocks of life will wake him up. And there is no other way in which the indulgent person will be woken up. A wise man will not try and aggravate the knocks and shocks. Anyway, knocks and shocks is going to wake up. No, why not create a situation where he experiences the knock and shock early so that he can wake up. Knocks and shocks need not necessarily always wake a person up. Therefore, we don't take the truth. You follow what I am saying? See, on the one hand, we are saying knocks and shocks alone will wake a person up. It means what we should do? Expedient. Adana vartha irukku illa? Correct. Make it fast so that everyone gets into knock and shock. Knocks and shocks will not automatically result in a person wanting to transform. Therefore, what he does, he keeps on saying there is a better way of transforming. There is a better way of transforming. It's a process where two things are involved. Two things are involved. One is your level of patience. Second is how much the other is cooperating. You understand? See, there are two situations. To make it very simple, there are two situations. One man says, I am indulgent, but I want to get out of my indulgence. Help me. That is one way. Another person says, this is the right way of living. Now to the second person, nothing can be done. For the first person, all help can be given. Any number of times he can fall, but still he can be helped. You follow what I am saying? So I am just trying to make it as simple as possible. Two situations. One man says, I am indulgent, I am vicious, I have bad tendencies, I want to transform. Another person says, what you call as bad, indulgence, vicious and all is your opinion, but what I am doing is correct. To that person, nothing can be done. So to that person, you can only make yourself available. To the first person who is wanting to get out of indulgence but keeps falling every time, there is a different way of helping. And a wise one is available for both. But the way in which help will be done will be different. Because the first one says, I am indulgent, I am falling, but help me. The second man says, you calling me indulgent, you calling me falling and all is your opinion, sir. I am happy, I am alright. Okay, here and there I get into some problems. If you are wise enough, help me to solve that problem. Other than that, don't give me your advices. So there are two There are two different scenarios, and basically you will encounter only these two individuals. Basically you will encounter only these two individuals, and a wise one is available to help both and in a different way. Is it okay? He is available, but how he will be available for one will be different from the way he is available for the second. Basically, can an intelligent person be helped? The answer is no. He cannot be helped. He cannot be helped doesn't mean you will turn your back, because that's where the sense of obligation comes. That's where the sense of love and affection comes. He cannot be helped doesn't mean I turn my back. If my daughter were to tell me, I don't need your help, get out, I will not say thank you and I'll walk out. Somehow or the other I still keep trying. Because of what? Two things: obligation, a genuine affection. Therefore, even though the other is not ready for help, even though the other is not ready to receive your help, you keep trying, because understand the law of help. The law of help is this: you always help someone who is incapable of understanding that you are helping. You serve those who are incapable of understanding that you are serving. This is the law of service. That day they recognize that you have been serving them, you will not be there. This is how service works. Again I repeat, the law of service. You serve those, you have to serve those who are incapable of understanding that you are serving. There is an addition to that. Not only they will not realize that you are serving, you will be seen as a hindrance. Correct, you will be seen as a hindrance, because you are interfering with their intelligence. Not only they are incapacitated to see that you are serving, you will be seen as a hindrance. You understand that and you still serve. Why? There is no why there. It's there. There is no why to service. That's what you ought to. That's what you ought to follow the law of. I'm just saying it based on experience. Andala in the book I don't know. First thing, you serve those who are incapable of understanding that you are serving. The child cannot understand the mother is serving. And not only that, the mother is seen as a hindrance. And you go on one-sidedly, because that's the only way it can be. The law of service. You serve those who are incapacitated to understand that you are serving. They cannot understand. Now you feel very happy. Correct, sir. How many people I have served? No one recognized my service. Don't say that. You are also exactly in the same situation. The moment you recognize that you are being served, and when you are resisting it the most, I am resisting, and the master is trying to serve me. I am resisting and he is trying to serve me. It's like a huge, what's going on? Yeah, a Kurukshetra is going on, because someone wants to wake me up and I am And I am saying, don't wake me up. I will not wake up. I will not wake up. And still he is trying to, I am not able to understand that he is serving. Not only I don't understand that he is serving, I see him as a hindrance to my sleep, hindrance to my enjoyment, hindrance to my sleep, hindrance to my enjoyment. Therefore, what I will do, those whom you try to serve will try to run away from you. They will try to escape because you are a hindrance. So what he does, he will somehow or the other does things to, somehow or the other, he will try to keep you going. Yeah. See, for this only you should live with the master to see how he works on all this. You get why he even does all this. He'll turn around and say, hey, they need help. What else can be? This can be done. They need, if you live with the master and you have seen all this, all this you derive from that. Theoretically, you cannot learn it from a textbook. You follow what I am saying? So, not only you will be, when you are seen as a hindrance, what will they try to do? If the mother is seen as a hindrance, if the father is seen as a hindrance, what will they try to do? Oh, Sunday morning you are not going for Vedanta class? They are saying, get out. All that they are saying is, move away, because you are an obstacle. You are a hindrance to what? To the indulgence. You knowing the effects of indulgence, what would you do? How much ever they resist, how much ever they fight, how much ever they abuse. You might be crucified also, but what would you do? You would go on one-sided. Remember that example that he always gives. The friend is drunk, lying in the gutters on the roadside. You see him, you want to help him, you want to take him out, and what he does to you? He will not say thank you and walk with you. What will you do? What will he do? Remember that example that he gives in all the discourses? He will abuse you, fight with you. Sometimes he might throw the dirt that he is living in. He will throw it at you. But what? And then he concludes by saying, if you have an ounce of feeling, what would you do? What would you do to that friend? Somehow bundle him up and take him out. That's service. That's called service. You follow? That person can never understand. Or, from a different angle, a person who is genuinely interested in helping will not be bothered about the reactions of the other, because he fully understands what. He has a firm understanding. What is the firm understanding? You want to serve someone, you will be. If you want to serve someone, what will happen to you first? You will be abused. You will be thrown out. It's a fact. We are not saying people are bad or selfish. They just don't understand. The wise one thinks what? See, from where does this compassion come to the wise man? This is how I was sometime in the past. Someone helped me out. That's what Buddha says. How you are, I was in the past. So I know it. And then he knows someone helped him. Now what becomes your duty is to help someone else out. Follow? All this comes after you become. All these stories applies only after you become wise. The primary obligation is, that's correct, sir. Today, what you said, I am going to follow and practice. Idella not for, all these are not meant for practice. Just to hear like a story and forget it. The primary obligation is to become wise. Is it okay? First number.
Arjuna uvacha katham bhishmamaham sankhye dronam cha madhusudana yishubhi pratiyotyami puja bhavarisudana. Arjuna uvacha katham bhishmamaham sankhye dronam cha madhusudana yishubhi pratiyotyami puja bhavarisudana.
Now Arjuna says, how shall I, O Madhusudana, fight with arrows against Bhishma and Drona in battle? They who are worthy of worship, O Harisudana, another name of Krishna, Madhusudana, Harisudana, Krishna. So first thing he says is, he starts all over again. All that Krishna said is, how can you get dejected? Now he is continuing the story of, he is starting all over again to prove how his dejection is justified, correct. He is starting all over again. What? Krishna, how can I fight against Bhishma and Drona? Because they are worthy of worship. Sorry.
Come back. An intelligent person will never ask for help. You never seek help.
Yes.
And you say until somebody asks for help,
Yes.
you don't help that person.
Yes. You will not help. You should not help. It is applicable to, unless someone asks for help, you should not help, is a principle applicable to from the case of the wise man, it is one-sided. All that he does is only keep helping. Therefore, unless asked for help, don't do it, is given to a person who has not understood what service is. That advice is given only to those who has not understood what the law of service is. The moment you understand it, you become wise, then you can help. So when we say, unless asked for help, do not help, is given to those who wants to serve but incapable of serving. Again I repeat. This advice is given to those who wants to help another, who wants to serve another but incapable. To them it says, your intentions are okay. You wanting to help the other is fine, but don't start acting on it. Don't actually start helping. Wait for him to ask. Why they say wait? Because since you are in the process of evolving, since you are going through the process of study, reflection and the sadhanas, chances are one day you will understand. They say wait, not for the other person. And we think wait for the other person to ask it's not for that person. In that period of waiting, what are you doing? You are continuing with your study, reflection, sadhanas. Therefore, you are becoming that much that much evolving. Therefore, in order to protect the other from you, they say, not literally you, in order to protect the other from you, they say, wait till they ask. And you have to eternally wait because they will never ask. And you have to eternally keep waiting because they will never ask. So in the meantime, what are you doing? I am not going back into my indulgences. What am I doing? What am I doing? I am doing my study, I am doing my reflections, I am doing my sadhanas, I am doing my practices, I am evolving. Generally speaking, I want to help. When the other man says, sorry, I don't want your help, what do? I don't go back and start my tapas. I don't go back and start my sadhana. What do I start? I go back and do. That man has this area of indulgence, I have my own area. So I go back into my own area of indulgence. So, even though the intentions are there, I am not really capable. I am not qualified. I have an intention to help, which is completely different from knowing actually how to help. Everyone needs to have the intention, but knowing the intention alone will not give you how to help. Because if you have to know how to help, you need to understand action first. If you want to help another, you need to know, because helping is an action. Carefully follow. Helping is an action, and if you have to help another, you need a very clear understanding of what action is. And the most fundamental aspect of action is what? Most fundamental law of action. The most fundamental aspect of action is action per se is neither good nor bad. Most of the human beings doesn't transcend this understanding itself, because they are still stuck at actions being good and exactly the same verse what Arjuna is talking now. How can I kill Bhishma and Drona, who are worthy of worship? The same situation, how he has exaggerated it here. He is not helping someone. He has to fight against whom? Two great souls, Bhishma and Drona. Bhishma, because the kingdom that they are fighting for is actually his kingdom. The kingdom that Pandavas and Kauravas were fighting, to whom it belongs to? Bhishma. All that he has to say is, all of you fellows, walk out. Yeah. Supreme Court case code, all the fellows have to walk out, because it is his. And he is standing there as a soldier, detached, fighting. Dronacharya, the greatest teacher the world has seen. Why he is the greatest teacher? Is because he taught archery to the man who is born to. He taught archery, he taught the warfare to the man who is born to kill him. Drishtadyumna, the brother of Draupadi. Correct. The brother of Draupadi is born to kill Dronacharya, the teacher, and Dronacharya taught Drishtadyumna how to kill. In effect, what is he teaching? Knowing fully? Well, it means what? What a high level of living, what a high level of thinking, where I do what I ought to do. I will do that which I ought to do. Now what you do with it is yours. such two high caliber people, how can I? That's why he says they are worthy of worship. It means he is still not understood what? No action is inherently good or bad. No action is inherently good, no action is inherently bad. Therefore, it means if you have to help, if you have to serve, even if you have to do so-called inherently bad actions, you should be able to, or you will be able to do it without any hesitation. But Arjuna is hesitating because he is still thinking, what? There are actions which are inherently good or inherently bad. There is no such actions like that. Number one. Number two, what makes it is the intention. Intention means you need to be so clear that your intentions are selfless in nature. And today, correct sir, I also have intention. I also have only the intention to help and it backfires. I go with the right intention to help and it backfires. I come back and say the other person is bad or vicious or incapable. No. How sure that your intentions are selfless in nature? How sure are you that your intentions are selfless in nature? And the selflessness cannot come in pockets. Selflessness cannot come in pockets. Selflessness is towards everyone. Selfishness and unselfishness comes in pockets. Selfishness and unselfishness will come in pockets. Selflessness comes to everyone. Am I able to retain the same thing to everyone? Will I be ready to take that extra step for everyone? Unselfishness says, no, it's only limited for a few. It means it's relatively less selfish. He is not capable of, this person is not capable of serving another. This person is not capable of helping another. So in order to help another, the other person the other should ask. And you have to wait till the other person asks. Waiting is not for the other. Waiting is for your own self. Why your own self? Because in that period it is assumed that you are still striving. You are still striving. When you are still striving, wait for the other to ask for help. If you are not striving, what you should do? Supposing if you are not striving for your own growth, what you should do? Forget about helping others and all, start striving. If you have started striving, wait for others to ask. Because in that waiting period, you are becoming that much last. Once you become wise, you will not be left alone. Once you become wise, you will not be left alone. Because Ramatirtha, the duty of the lake is to collect. The duty of the lake is to collect water, and no lake needs to advertise that I have water. It will be approached, it will be taken. Therefore, to say that waiting is applicable to a person who is striving to become wise. That's where I said selflessness is towards all. Today, every one of us wants to help, but we want to help a very few in particular. That very few in particular alone we segregate for help. Because of what? Because of our attachment. There are people suffering, but I segregate a few and say, my help is for this. It's not that I have developed the intentions to help. I am only working on my... What am I working? I am only working on my attachments. I am still going through my attachments only. That's why I said, when you actually evolve into selflessness, that the intensity remains the same for everyone, not to a few in particular. And the moment you become selfless, whoever deserves that, they will come and take it. Whoever deserves that, they will come and take it. Sometimes it will happen where the closest person might miss it. Sometimes it will happen where the closest person might miss it. It means the other is not yet ready. It means the other is not yet ready. Is it okay? Is it clear? What is the last one? What I said just now. No, the closest person might not take it because Arjuna is not able to take the advice from Krishna because of his very closeness. He is still seeing him as equal. He is still seeing him as equal, because too familiar become too familiar. A wise one knows how to maintain the balance. He is familiar at the same time. At the same time he knows how to keep the distance. Very important in service is to keep the distance. You have to be familiar, you have to be close at the same time. There has to be if not, what happens is they will start seeing as equals. After a very few years of association, how many comes and gives advice to him as to how he should run the academy? How many gives advice to him? And he also takes it so seriously. I say, if that man is so no clue to what is done, why are you taking it so seriously? Familiarity, just that closeness, what you lose is what? In that closeness, what is lost? The moment you see as equal, what is lost there? What is lost? Looking up to goes. Looking up to goes. When looking up to is not there, you cannot help. If you have to help someone, the other person has to look up to. Then only you can serve. Then only you can help. Today, the familiarity makes the person not look up. At the most, we will think, okay, he's a wise, intelligent man. That's about it. But then we are equals. What is the equal? Just as I have my area of expertise, he has his area of expertise. But we both are. It's impossible for me to say that with all that I know, I am ignorant. Compared to that, he is all knowing. You follow what I am saying? That's why I said the person, the very closest person, the familiarity, and they become two. The wise one will never allow you to get too close. There will be a closeness. The moment the closeness is turning into a familiarity, he knows how to give one tap in the head and say, come down, don't fly high, come down. That's what I said. It's a very fine. To guide someone, to help someone is not so easy a task. It's like racer's edge, walking on the racer's edge kind of story it is. They miss it. Christ was missed when he was alive. When he was alive, he was completely missed. Because of what? We know him, son of. How can a son of ordinary carpenter become so wise all of a sudden? Not only that, he is not performing any miracles also. Therefore, he is not. You missed him because of what? The familiarity. Therefore, I said that the closest person misses you because looking up to stars. Therefore, if you have to help someone, or if you have to receive help from someone, what is the primary condition? You have to look up to him as you have to look up to him as all-knowing. Then only you can receive help. Otherwise, we cannot receive help. We will go and then go for second opinion, third opinion, fourth opinion. Because of what? Because he is not all-knowing. Therefore, if you have to receive help, you need to a single source can be all-knowing. That's very difficult to accept. We all can accept one in one area. Okay, he is a legal expert, he is a medical expert, he is an expert in confusing others. Yeah, we have one expertise for one. How can you imagine one man expert in? That's why he is all-knowing. That's why we call him all-knowing. In front of him, the ego bows down. It means you need to, then only you can look up to. If you have to look up to someone, it's not based on expertise. Because if you can trust a person based on expertise, you will not go for second, third, fourth and all. You just be with. But then you understand what? There cannot be any one source who is all-knowing. This makes us incapable of receiving help. So if I have to receive help, I need to bow down to one source and say, He is all-knowing. That one source is what we call as God. All-knowing, all-powerful, all-everything. Legal problem, there is no legal separate God. No, I go to same God for legal problem. I go to same God for medical problem. I go to same God for my financial troubles. I don't have separate gods for everyone. One God I go for everything. It means what? In front of Him I am the ego bows down. But then the familiarity makes me to ignore what? The familiarity makes me to ignore the fact that all-knowing. Familiarity will take away me looking up to. I cannot look up to, because familiarity brings a kind of equality. That's where in the Guru Shishya discourse I always say, the teacher says I am your friend. The teacher says I am your friend. I don't put my hands around his shoulders and say I am your friend too, because I have to maintain that. But then what happens is the familiarity. As the familiarity goes on, what goes away? Looking up to goes away. When looking up to goes away, I cannot receive help. Therefore, another statement. If you have to receive help, or if you have to help someone, the person must look up to you. Then only you can help. If the other person has to look up to you, it means you should be able to inspire the other. And inspiring the other comes only through reduction of ego. The only way that you can inspire the other is by you having reduced your ego. Overall, not something related to in particular, an overall reduction of ego. Seriya?